Terrell, wealthy CEO, humiliated his ex-wife in front of his entire family. What his daughter said next left him. Maya sat at the opposite end, back straight, face composed. 5 years since their divorce, and she still carried herself with the quiet dignity that had once attracted him. Before he destroyed it, before he decided her worth could be measured and found wanting. Have you ever witnessed a moment when someone's carefully constructed facade cracked right before your eyes? Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. 10 words from a child's mouth brought a billionaire to his knees, and the empire he built on lies began crumbling between dessert and coffee. The night was supposed to be flawless. Terrell Beaumont stood at the head of the table in his glass-walled Atlanta penthouse, surveying his kingdom. 40 floors above the city, crystal glasses clinked while servers in pressed uniforms glided between guests. His extended family, brothers, sisters, cousins twice removed who only appeared at gatherings that promised connections or cash, laughed too loudly at jokes that weren't funny. Maya sat at the opposite end, back straight, face composed. 5 years since their divorce, and she still carried herself with the quiet dignity that had once attracted him. Before he destroyed it, before he decided her worth could be measured and found wanting. To successful ventures, Terrell raised his glass, eyes locking with hers across imported flowers and sterling silver. And to those who understand their place in them, the room caught his meaning immediately. Chuckles rippled across monogram napkins. Someone's camera flashed. Maya's complexion went from olive to ash. It wasn't the first time he'd humiliated her at family gatherings. It wouldn't be the last. The Beaumont dynasty had a long memory for those who left the fold, especially when they left with nothing but their pride. Maya placed her napkin beside her plate, chair scraping backward. Then a small voice cut through the satisfaction hanging in the air. "Stop lying about mommy." Zoe's words landed like dropped crystal. 10 years old with her mother's eyes and her father's unflinching stare, she pushed away from the table, trembling. "You make everyone think she left because she wanted your money. But I heard you that night in New York. I heard what you did. I heard what you made those men do to keep that woman quiet." Crystal glasses froze midair. The Atlanta skyline glittered beyond floor-to-ceiling windows, indifferent to the earthquake happening inside. "Sweetie," Terrell's voice shifted to the gentle tone reserved for investors and threats. "It's past your bedtime. You're confused." "I'm not confused. I have the recording." The room temperature plummeted. His sister Elise dropped her fork. His brother Marcus stopped mid-drink. "What recording?" Terrell's question came too quickly, too sharply. "The one from your office. The night you made that woman cry. When you said you'd destroy her family if she told anyone what happened in Dallas." Phones began buzzing around the table. Relatives sensing scandal, damage control, the shift in family hierarchy that follows public disgrace. Terrell's fingers whitened around his glass as he processed the impossibility of what was happening. His daughter, his legacy, his carefully constructed fortress of lies cracking from within. He reached for Zoe's arm, but Maya moved faster, stepping between them. Her whisper reached only him. You touch her, and what she just said becomes headline news by morning. Have you ever witnessed a moment when someone's carefully constructed facade cracked right before your eyes? A single sentence that changed everything? That's the thing about empires built on deception. They don't need wrecking balls to fall. Sometimes all it takes is a child's truth, spoken aloud. 15 floors below the penthouse, Maya pressed the elevator button with trembling fingers, knowing the truth they'd unleashed couldn't be contained, and neither could his rage. Come on, she muttered, arm tight around Zoe's shoulders. The elevator display showed the car descending from the 40th floor. Too slow. Terrell would be making excuses to his family, but he'd follow. He always did when control slipped from his grasp. Zoe looked up, eyes wide. I am sorry, Mom. I couldn't listen to him anymore. The way he talks to you. Don't apologize for telling the truth. Maya's phone vibrated in her clutch. Terrell. She silenced it without looking. But we need to move quickly. The elevator chimed. Empty, thank God. They stepped inside, Maya jabbing the lobby button repeatedly as though it might speed their descent. As the doors closed, she caught a glimpse of Terrell's cousin exiting the stairwell, phone to ear. The reporting had begun. 40 floors, 39, 38, each number a heartbeat closer to escape. What's going to happen now? Zoe's voice sounded smaller than it had upstairs. Maya wished she knew. The recording Zoe mentioned, she'd had no idea it existed. Her daughter had been carrying this knowledge alone, waiting for the moment to defend her mother. The thought squeezed her chest tight. We're going home. Then we'll figure it out. The elevator slowed at the 25th floor. No, please no. The doors opened to reveal Marcus, Terrell's younger brother, out of breath from running down 15 flights. Maya, wait. He's asking for 5 minutes. He's had 5 years. She positioned herself in front of Zoe. Move, Marcus. He hesitated, loyalty to his brother warring with a new uncertainty in his eyes. Is it true? What Zoe said? Ask your brother about the Dallas settlement. Ask why it doesn't appear in any company records. Something shifted in Marcus's expression. He stepped back, allowing the doors to close. The luxury sedan pulled away from the tower's circular drive, its tinted windows unable to block the weight of eyes watching from above. The Beaumont family, collectively holding their breath as their golden son's legacy began unraveling. Maya's mind raced through the implications. Dallas, the intern, the recording. How much did Zoe actually know? How much danger were they in now? Terrell didn't just control his company. He controlled judges, police chiefs, politicians, people who owed their positions to his donations and influence. Her phone lit up again. A text this time. Is he mad? Zoe asked, watching her mother's face. No, baby. He's scared. For the first time in their marriage and divorce, Terrell Beaumont was not in control of the narrative, and nothing frightened him more. When her phone lit up with his name again, Maya almost declined until she saw the text beneath it. Don't make me come find you. She looked at Zoe sleeping beside her and knew they had exactly 8 hours before his threat became reality. What secrets have you protected to maintain someone else's image? At what point does loyalty become self-destruction? Maya had spent years perfecting silence, convincing herself it protected Zoe from ugly truths about her father. Now, she wondered if silence had only protected the man who deserved it least. She agreed to meet him alone at midnight, not from fear, but because after 5 years of silence, Maya finally held the cards that could destroy the man who tried to erase her. The hotel bar pulsed with low music and quiet conversations, neutral territory where neither of them held home court advantage. Maya chose a corner table with clear sight lines to every exit. Old habits from years of calculating escape, routes from Terrell's unpredictable moods. She arrived 15 minutes early. He arrived 14 minutes early. Some competitions never ended. You look well, he said, sliding into the chair across from her. His voice carried the practice calm he used for business emergencies. The same tone she'd heard when markets crashed or deals collapsed. Save it. Maya kept her coat on, not staying long. You have 10 minutes. Terrell studied her with eyes that had once convinced her they saw only her in a room full of more beautiful, more connected women. The same eyes that had later looked through her like glass when she no longer served his purpose. Where's the recording? Straight to business. No more pretense. Safe. Not with me. Not with Zoe. His jaw tightened at their daughter's name. She doesn't understand what she heard. She understood enough. His hand moved to his jacket pocket, removing a folded check. Old school, like his father before him. Digital transfers left records. Paper could be denied. Name your price. He slid it across the table's marble surface. Maya didn't touch it. You still don't get it. What do you want then? The penthouse? Shares in the company? A public apology. The bar's amber lighting softened nothing between them. Not the rigid set of his shoulders in the custom suit. Not the cold calculation in her eyes as she declined his offer without moving. I want you to face consequences. Just once. Something flashed across his face. Not anger, but genuine confusion. In his world, everything and everyone had a price. The idea that Maya wanted justice rather than compensation didn't compute. "There are other people involved," he said, voice lower. "People who won't be as gentle as I'm being." "Gentle?" Maya laughed, the sound drawing glances from nearby tables. "Is that what you call threatening to come find me when our daughter's finally old enough to understand what kind of man you are?" For a moment, the mask slipped. She caught a glimpse of the cornered animal beneath the bespoke suit. The poor boy from Baton Rouge who'd clawed his way to the top and would do anything to avoid falling back down. His fingers closed around her wrist as she stood to leave. "You don't know what you're starting," he warned. Her smile was gentle, but her eyes were steel. "No, Terrell. This is what you started. I'm just finishing it. Have you ever faced someone who once had complete power over you, only to realize that power had shifted? Tell me about that moment of recognition." For Maya, it wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming the worth he'd spent years convincing her she didn't have. The headline appeared on her phone at 6:17 a.m. Beaumont Empire faces federal investigation. But it wasn't the secret Zoe had revealed, which meant someone else was coming for him too. Maya sat up in bed, sleep instantly forgotten. The article mentioned financial irregularities and potential securities fraud, nothing about Dallas or the intern or hush settlements. This was something else entirely, something bigger. She scrolled through her news feed, watching the story multiply across financial sites and local papers. The photo accompanying most articles showed Terrell at last month's charity gala, confident smile betraying no hint of the storm building around him. Stock prices were already responding, dropping in pre-market trading like stones thrown from a cliff. Her coffee grew cold as she absorbed the implications. The man who once controlled Atlanta's skyline was now fighting for professional survival. Whatever Zoe had overheard in New York was just one thread in what appeared to be a much larger tapestry of secrets. "Mom?" Zoe appeared in the kitchen doorway, still in pajamas. "Why are you up so early?" Maya locked her phone screen. "Just checking emails, honey. How did you sleep? I had dreams about Dad." Zoe pulled out a chair, suddenly looking older than her 10 years. "Is he going to be mad at me forever now?" The question pierced Maya's heart. Even after witnessing his cruelty, Zoe still craved her father's approval. The psychological handprint of a man who measured love in terms of usefulness. "Your father." Maya chose her words carefully. "He's dealing with some business problems right now. What happened last night is complicated, but you did nothing wrong by telling the truth." Zoe nodded, unconvinced. "I saw his picture on your phone. Is he in trouble?" Before Maya could answer, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "We need to talk about Terrell Beaumont. You're home. 1 hour. No name. No explanation. Just a command that assumed compliance." Maya glanced at the kitchen clock, mind racing. She needed to get Zoe somewhere safe, away from whatever was coming. But where? Terrell's family wouldn't help. Her own parents lived 3 states away. Friends would ask questions she couldn't answer. "How about breakfast at Lucy's house?" she suggested, referring to Zoe's best friend. "I'll call her mom and see if you can spend the morning there while I handle some work things." 30 minutes later, with Zoe safely delivered to her friend's house, Maya returned home to wait. She checked doors, windows, the security system Terrell had insisted on installing even after he moved out. Paranoia had been his love language. The knock came precisely on time. Not Terrell's knock. "You have used his key, permission be damned." This was crisp, professional, certain. A woman stood on her doorstep. Mid-40s, charcoal suit, eyes that cataloged everything without revealing anything in return. "Mrs. Beaumont?" Elise Chun, Federal Prosecutor's Office. She held up credentials that confirmed her identity. "Your daughter's statement wasn't the beginning. It was confirmation of what we've suspected for years. When someone who hurt you faces consequences, do you feel satisfaction or unexpected sympathy? That complicated emotion has a name. What would you call it?" As Maya stepped aside to let justice enter her home, she searched for the word that matched the weight in her chest. Not quite vindication. Not quite regret. Something harder to define. 5 years ago, while packing to leave their marriage, Maya had discovered a flash drive hidden in his watch case. never knowing it contained enough evidence to send Terrell to prison until today. "You kept this all this time?" Prosecutor Chun turned the small black device between her fingers. "And you never looked at what was on it?" Maya stared at the flash drive on her kitchen table. It seemed smaller now than when she'd found it. Tucked beneath the velvet lining of Terrell's watch case, while searching for her grandmother's ring he'd borrowed for a jewelry appraisal and never returned. "I thought it was just business files," Maya explained. "I took it because it felt like taking something back. Because after years of Terrell claiming ownership of everything, her time, her body, her accomplishments, she'd wanted one small piece of him to hold hostage. A petty revenge she'd almost forgotten." Mrs. Beaumont, Chen's voice sharpened. "This drive could contain critical evidence in our investigation. Why mention it only now?" The flash drive sat between them, smaller than a stick of gum, but weighted with enough data to collapse the Beaumont legacy. 5 years it had waited in her jewelry box, disguised as a broken memento she couldn't bear to discard. "I didn't know it mattered until you started asking about New York properties and offshore accounts. Then I remembered." Chen nodded, expression unreadable. "And your daughter's recording? The one she mentioned at the dinner? She keeps it on her tablet. I've never heard it myself. She only told me about it last night." The prosecutor made notes in a leather-bound notebook. Everything about her was precise. Handwriting questions the exact distance she maintained between herself and Maya. Professional but not cold. Determined but not aggressive. "What happens now?" Maya asked. "To Terrell? To Zoe? That depends on what we find here." Chun held up the drive. "And how cooperative Mr. Beaumont decides to be." Maya remembered their midnight meeting. His certainty that she could be bought. His inability to conceive of justice as a concept separate from profit and loss. "He won't cooperate." The words came with unexpected sadness. "He'll fight with everything he has." "Most of them do." Chen's smile held no humor. "But I've been building this case for 3 years. Your daughter's recording and this drive might be the final pieces we need." As the prosecutor prepared to leave, questions crowded Maya's mind. How had Chen zeroed in on Terrell? What started the investigation? Why now, after years of his apparent untouchability? "One more thing," Chen paused at the door. "It would be best if you didn't mention our meeting to anyone, including Mr. Beaumont." Maya nodded, but a chill settled between her shoulder blades. Something in Chen's tone suggested this wasn't just about financial crimes anymore. As Prosecutor Chun left with the evidence, Maya's phone lit with a text from an unknown number. "I've been waiting years for someone brave enough to bring him down. We should meet." Attached was a photo that made her blood freeze. Her and Terrell in a heated embrace outside the hotel bar last night. Have you ever discovered you held power you didn't recognize? A moment when information you possessed was more valuable than you realized? Maya had carried the key to Terrell's downfall for years without knowing it. Now she wondered what else she might have missed while trying to forget him. The woman who helped destroy Terrell's first company sat across from Maya in the coffee shop, offering an alliance neither of them wanted, but both of them needed. "I ordered you black coffee." Vanessa Reeves didn't look up from her phone as Maya slid into the booth. Seemed fitting for the woman who finally brought Terrell Beaumont to his knees. Maya studied the stranger who texted the photo. 40-something, sleek bob haircut, the kind of confident posture money bought early or life forced later. Her clothes whispered wealth without shouting it. Cashmere in neutral tones. One statement watch worth more than Maya's car. "I didn't bring anyone to their knees," Maya replied. "And I don't appreciate being photographed without my knowledge." Vanessa finally looked up, eyes sharp as cut glass. "Insurance. I need to know if you were still sleeping with the enemy." "That's none of your business." "It's everyone's business now." Vanessa slid her phone across the table, open to a financial news site. Beaumont Development stock down 17% since yesterday. Board members calling emergency meetings. Investors pulling out of the Atlanta Heights project. The screen showed Terrell leaving his office building, expression tight, surrounded by dark-suited men who moved like bodyguards. He looked hunted. "What do you want from me?" Maya asked. "Information. Partnership. Justice." Vanessa stirred her untouched coffee, platinum ring catching light with each rotation. People think he destroys women because he hates us, she said, eyes meeting Maya's. The truth is worse. He destroys us because he sees our value before we do. Maya's breath caught. The words struck too close to home, echoing thoughts she'd never shared. You don't know me. I know enough. 10 years ago, I was you, different name, same story. I built half of Terrell's first company while he took all the credit. When I pushed for recognition, he fabricated evidence that I'd stolen client information, destroyed my reputation, my career, my marriage. Why come forward now? Because Prosecutor Chun finally has enough to make charges stick. Between your daughter's recording, whatever was on that flash drive, and my documentation, he's finished. Maya's coffee sat untouched. How do you know about the flash drive? Something flickered across Vanessa's face. A calculation reset. Chun mentioned it. The pieces shifted in Maya's mind. You're working with the prosecutor. We have mutual interests. A warning bell chimed in Maya's thoughts. Chun had told her to keep their meeting private. Yet here sat Vanessa, knowing details Maya had shared with no one. I need time to think, Maya said, reaching for her purse. Time is the one thing we don't have. Chun is moving fast, and Terrell's lawyers are already building defenses. Vanessa leaned forward. You need to decide which side you're on. I'm on my daughter's side. Then help us bury him before he drags her into his mess. Maya's phone buzzed with Terrell's name, a video call. When she answered, the camera showed not his face, but Zoe's backpack sitting on his office sofa. His voice was silk over steel. We need to renegotiate terms. Now, would you align yourself with someone who shares your enemy, even if you question their motives? What makes trust possible between wounded strangers? As Maya stared at Zoe's backpack on the screen, she realized that in this dangerous game, the only person she truly trusted was herself. He'd taken their daughter from school with a forged emergency note, his most dangerous move yet, not because it was illegal, but because for the first time, Maya had nothing left to lose. The elevator doors opened to Beaumont Development's executive floor. Glass walls, modern art, assistants with perfect posture and practice smiles. Maya walked through it all like a missile locked on target. Mrs. Beaumont, Terrell's executive assistant, stood alarmed. You don't have an appointment. Where's my daughter? Maya didn't slow down. Mr. Beaumont is in a meeting. I don't care if he's meeting with God himself. The reception area fell silent as Maya strode through in jeans and determination. No longer the polished corporate wife, but something far more dangerous, a mother with purpose. Security guards stepped back, recognizing a force beyond their pay grade. She pushed open Terrell's office door without knocking. He sat behind his desk, phone to ear, expression shifting from annoyance to calculation when he saw her. Zoe wasn't in sight. I'll call you back, he told the caller, hanging up. Maya, always a pleasure to see you barge into my workplace. Where is she? Safe. With my mother. His voice remained even, controlled. Unlike you, she doesn't expose our child to federal prosecutors without legal representation. Cold washed through Maya's veins. He knew about Chun. You had no right to take her from school. I had every right. I'm her father. He stood, straightening his tie, a fact you seem to forget when sharing family business with the government. This isn't about business. It's about what you did to that intern. What Zoe heard. Something dark flashed across his face. Our daughter was confused. She misunderstood a complex situation. Stop lying. Maya stepped closer, fury burning away caution. I want my daughter. Now. Our daughter, he corrected. And she's spending the weekend with me, as scheduled in our custody agreement. Perhaps you forgot. He was right. In her panic, she'd lost track of the calendar. This was his weekend, legally, properly documented. I want to talk to her. Of course. He pressed a button on his desk phone. Sharon, please bring Zoe from the break room. Minutes later, Zoe appeared, confusion clear on her face. Mom? What's wrong? Nothing, honey. Maya knelt to her level. I just wanted to make sure you're okay. Zoe glanced between her parents, sensing the tension. Grandma's making spaghetti tonight. Dad said I could stay up late and watch movies. The mundane normalcy of it struck Maya like a physical blow. While her world cracked along fault lines of federal investigations and blackmail photos, Zoe still existed in a child's reality of pasta dinners and weekend privileges. That sounds nice. Maya forced a smile. I'll pick you up Sunday at 6, okay? As building security escorted Maya from the lobby, Terrell's petty revenge for her interruption, his whisper reached only her. This isn't about Zoe or the money. There's something on that drive you don't understand. Something that will destroy us both if it gets out. What transforms us more completely? Love or fear? At what point does protection become its own form of power? Maya had entered Terrell's office ready for war, only to discover he might be fighting a different battle altogether, one where they stood on the same side of an invisible line. The federal prosecutor placed the documents on Maya's kitchen table one by one. Evidence not just of financial crimes, but of Terrell's connection to a political conspiracy that had rewritten Atlanta's landscape. 6 properties acquired through shell companies. Chin pointed to a map of downtown Atlanta, all purchased after confidential city council votes on development zones, but before public announcements. Maya studied the familiar addresses. Buildings Terrell had called his instinct acquisitions. Properties he'd bought against his board's recommendations that later quadrupled in value. That's not illegal, Maya said. Terrell always had a sense for up-and-coming areas. It is when you're bribing council members for advance information. Chun laid down meeting schedules, calendar entries, wire transfers to offshore accounts. Your husband didn't have instincts. He had informants. Night pressed against the kitchen windows as document after document formed a paper trail of ambition without conscience. Properties acquired through blackmail, permits granted through bribes, competitors silenced through orchestrated scandals, a corrupt ecosystem with Terrell at its center. Ex-husband, Maya corrected automatically. We've been divorced 5 years. Chin's pen paused over her notebook. Yet you remained on the board of his charitable foundation until last year. The statement caught Maya off guard. How is that relevant? The Beaumont Family Foundation approved grants to organizations linked to these same council members. Chun tapped the document. Organizations that existed primarily on paper, with funds flowing back to private accounts. Maya's throat tightened. I didn't know. Your signature appears on these grant approvals. I signed what the board recommended. Terrell handled the details. Chin's expression remained neutral, but something shifted in her posture. The distance between them at the table suddenly felt meaningful. Mrs. Beaumont, are you familiar with the concept of willful blindness? The implication hung in the air. Not just Terrell on trial, but Maya's compliance. Her silence. Her signatures on documents she never questioned. I want a lawyer, Maya said quietly. That's your right. Chin gathered her papers methodically. But consider this. Cooperation now could mean immunity later, especially if you help us understand what's on that flash drive. You haven't looked at it yet. Our tech team encountered encryption beyond standard commercial software. Whatever's on there, your husband wanted it heavily protected. Maya remembered Terrell's warning. Something that will destroy us both. Dia struck her now. Not him. Both of them. What if I don't know anything useful? Then you'd better hope your daughter's recording provides enough context. Chin's words landed like stones. Because right now, your name appears on too many documents for comfort. Maya's finger traced the signature on the final document. Not Terrell's name, but her own. This isn't my signature, she whispered. Chin's expression shifted. Are you certain? Because claiming forgery now could implicate you further. The question felt like a trap. Maya stared at the flowing script that resembled her handwriting, but with subtle differences only she would notice. The loop of the Y too wide, the cross on the T too high. I need time to review these with my attorney. Time is running out, Mrs. Beaumont. Chun closed her folder with finality. For everyone involved, have you ever discovered someone you loved was not just flawed, but something darker? How do we reconcile the person we thought we knew with evidence of who they truly are? As Maya watched Chun leave, she wondered which was worse, that Terrell had forged her signature, or that part of her had always suspected he was capable of exactly this kind of betrayal. She opened her door at 2 a.m. expecting federal agents. Instead, finding Terrell, rain-soaked and haunted, offering the one thing he'd never given her during their marriage, the complete truth. The knock came so softly, she almost missed it beneath the storm's drumbeat on the roof. Maya peered through the peephole, hand hovering over her phone, ready to call 911. The security system showed no cars in the driveway, no movement on the perimeter cameras Terrell had installed for her protection, cameras she now suspected had always been for his surveillance. He stood alone on her porch, suit darkened by rain, hair plastered to his forehead. Gone was the polished CEO, the calculating ex-husband. In his place stood a man she barely recognized. Against her better judgment, she opened the door. Rain dripped from his hair onto her entryway tile, designer suit ruined, power stripped away by weather and circumstance. The man at her doorstep was neither the ambitious husband she'd married nor the callous ex who'd humiliated her, but someone she'd never fully seen before. "Is Zoe here?" His voice rasped like he'd been shouting. "She's at your mother's. Your weekend, remember?" Relief crossed his face. "Good. She's safer there." Safer from what? He glanced behind him into the rain-drenched darkness. "Can I come in? Please." The please decided her. In 12 years of marriage, she could count on one hand the times he'd used that word without calculation. He stepped past her, bringing the smell of rain and expensive cologne gone sour with stress. Water pooled beneath his Italian leather shoes on her hardwood floor. When he shrugged off his jacket, she automatically reached to take it. Muscle memory from years of playing the supportive wife. Their fingers brushed as she took the wet fabric. Heat jumped between them, unwelcome and undeniable. Memory surged through her body. His hands, his mouth, nights when passion had momentarily erased the power imbalance between them. "They froze my accounts," he said, oblivious to her reaction. "All of them. Personal, business, even my mother's trust that I manage." Chen moved fast. Not Chun. He raked fingers through wet hair. "Someone higher up. Someone using Chun." Maya crossed her arms. "That's why you're here? Financial advice." "I'm here because you're in danger too." His eyes met hers, clear and urgent. "That flash drive you gave them, did they tell you what's on it?" "They said it's encrypted." "Thank God." He exhaled sharply. "Maya, listen carefully. That drive doesn't just contain evidence against me. It contains proof of illegal surveillance on federal judges, politicians, corporate rivals. Operations I discovered but didn't authorize." "Then who did?" "Lawrence Hayes." The name hit her like cold water. Lawrence Hayes. Terrell's mentor, the man who'd financed his first building, whose daughter had been Maya's maid of honor. Atlanta's Shadow King. Why would Hayes? Control. Terrell stepped closer, intensity radiating from him. "He funded my start, expected ownership in return. When I refused to let him influence company decisions, he planted people in my organization, including Vanessa Reeves." His fingers closed around the evidence she'd gathered against him, but instead of destroying it, he added a USB drive from his pocket. "There's something you need to see about Chun, and why she really wants me ruined. It's not justice she's after, it's revenge. Is redemption possible for someone who's wronged you deeply? Where's the line between forgiveness and self-preservation?" As rain lashed the windows, Maya faced an impossible choice. Trust the man who betrayed her, or the strangers who promised justice but might deliver something else entirely. The security footage showed Prosecutor Chen meeting with Maya's new ally Vanessa 6 months ago, long before Zoe's revelation. And suddenly Maya realized she wasn't bringing down Terrell's empire. She was being used to rebuild someone else's. "Play it again," Maya said, leaning closer to Terrell's laptop screen. He tapped the keyboard, restarting the video. The timestamp showed January 18th, 6:42 p.m. The location, a private dining room at Hawks, Atlanta's most exclusive restaurant. Chun and Vanessa sat close, paper spread between them, expressions intense. "No audio?" Maya asked. "Not necessary." Terrell pointed to the document visible when Vanessa shifted position. "That's a blueprint of my company structure. Internal documents that never left the executive floor." Maya watched Vanessa slide what appeared to be a flash drive across the table. Chun pocketed it with practiced casualness. "How did you get this footage?" "I've had Hayes under surveillance for years. His favorite restaurants, clubs, offices, anywhere he might conduct business outside official channels. This camera was tracking him, but caught them instead." The realization settled like ice in Maya's stomach. If Terrell was telling the truth, she'd handed her daughter's recording and the encrypted flash drive to people working against not just Terrell, but potentially against her too. Why would Chun work with Vanessa? Hayes placed Vanessa in my first company to keep tabs on me. When I discovered her feeding him information and forced her out, he promised to restore her position someday. Chun is his path to that promise. Dawn painted her living room in gray half-light as they hunched over laptops and documents, a war room assembled from divorce debris. The coffee table that once displayed art books now held evidence of corruption that stretched from Atlanta City Hall to Washington power brokers. "We need to get the flash drive back," Terrell said, rubbing his eyes. "Before they break the encryption." And Zoe's recording? Already handled. I replaced it with a doctor version while she slept at my mother's. Anger flashed through Maya. "You went through our daughter's private things?" "To protect her." His voice hardened. "That recording is leverage against people who wouldn't hesitate to hurt her to keep their secrets." Their hands brushed as they reached for the same document. The contact lingered a heartbeat too long, electricity jumping between skin that remembered each other too well. Their eyes met, recognition passing between them. Not just of physical awareness, but of synchronized thinking despite their history. 5 years of anger, 2 days of crisis, and somehow they'd fallen into the familiar rhythm of partnership, their minds connecting dots in complementary patterns. Maya pulled away first. "I'll call Chun," she said, reaching for her phone. "Request a meeting to review the evidence she showed me. Be careful. She's watching you as closely as she's watching me." Maya paused, the weight of their dangerous position settling fully. "Why did you come to me with this? You could have run, used your offshore accounts. They froze everything, even accounts the government doesn't know about." "That's not an answer." He looked up, eyes meeting hers directly. "Because despite everything, you're the only person I trust to believe the truth when you see it, even when that truth contradicts what you want to believe about me." Her phone lit with Vanessa's text. Meeting with Chun was productive. "We move against him tomorrow." Maya's eyes met Terrell's across the evidence scattered between them. "They don't know we're together," she whispered. His response was unexpected. "No, but perhaps that's our only advantage. When does an enemy become an ally? Have you ever found yourself standing beside someone you once opposed, facing a greater threat?" In the gray light of morning, Maya faced the most dangerous decision yet. Trust the ex-husband who betrayed her, or the justice system that now seemed equally corrupt. They entered the charity gala separately, estranged spouses in public, secret allies in private, with earpieces connecting them as they executed the most dangerous performance of their lives. Maya stepped from the town car, camera flashes capturing her emergence like lightning strikes. The annual Children's Hospital benefit attracted Atlanta's elite like moths to flame. Old money, new tech, politicians hungry for photo ops with checkbooks. The perfect hunting ground. Southeast, entrance clear. Terrell's voice murmured through the nearly invisible earpiece. Chun just arrived with the mayor. Maya acknowledged with a slight touch to her earring, their agreed signal. The diamonds weren't real. The 4-carat studs Terrell had given her on their 10th anniversary were locked in a safe deposit box, collateral against a future she might need to fund quickly. The ballroom dripped old Atlanta money, crystal chandeliers reflecting off silk gowns and family diamonds, conversations flowing like the champagne. Maya navigated social currents with newfound purpose, each gracious smile concealing calculation as she positioned herself near the governor's wife. "Amanda, you look stunning." Maya air-kissed the older woman's cheek. "Is that Valentino?" "Maya, we've missed you at these events." Amanda squeezed her arm. "Divorce shouldn't mean social exile. I've been focused on Zoe." Maya angled them toward the bar, where Vanessa stood talking with Prosecutor Chun. Speaking of focus, who's the woman with Elise Chun? She looks familiar. Amanda followed her gaze. Vanessa Reeves, claiming she's launching a new development firm. Between us, I heard she's gunning for Terrell's projects if his legal troubles continue. How ambitious of her. Vultures circle when they smell blood, Amanda whispered. Oh, there's Richard waving me over. Don't be a stranger, dear. As Amanda departed, Maya caught Terrell's eye across the room. He stood with Lawrence Hayes, their body language projecting mentor-protege camaraderie despite the war brewing beneath pleasantries. Terrell laughed at something Hayes said, raising his glass in apparent appreciation. Hayes is fishing. Terrell's voice came through the earpiece. Want to know if I've secured the flash drive? Maya turned toward the silent auction tables, speaking softly. Chin keeps checking her clutch. Small, silver Judith Lieber. Likely inside. Can you get close? Working on it. Maya circled the perimeter, stopping to greet former friends, people who'd chosen sides after the divorce, but were happy to welcome her back now that she showed up at the right events. Each conversation brought her closer to Chin's position by the champagne fountain. Their plan was precise. Maya would spill champagne on Chun, creating confusion and an opportunity for Terrell to bump into them during cleanup, allowing their tech expert, waiting outside with equipment, precious seconds to clone Chin's phone. Maya lifted 2 champagne flutes from a passing tray, moving toward Chun with practiced grace. 3 steps away. 2. 1. A hand gripped her elbow, halting her advance. I've been hoping to speak with you. Vanessa's voice was honey over gravel. Privately, Maya maintained her smile despite the derailment. Vanessa, right? I don't believe we've formally met, yet we have so much in common. Vanessa guided her toward a quieter corner. The plan was working perfectly until Terrell approached Maya with a champagne flute and whispered words meant only for her. I know he spent the night at your house. The question is, does Prosecutor Chun, have you ever worn a mask in plain sight? Presented one version of yourself while hiding another? Maya's heart pounded against her ribs, but her face revealed nothing. A skill learned during 12 years of marriage to a man who treated vulnerability as weakness. Now that skill might save them both. The evidence they planned to present vanished from the secure server at precisely 9:42 p.m., the exact moment Terrell excused himself from the gala, leaving Maya alone against 2 women who'd planned for her failure. Where did Terrell go? Maya kept her voice light, hiding the panic building as Vanessa's grip on her elbow tightened. Emergency board call, apparently. Vanessa smiled with perfect teeth. Convenient timing. Maya scanned the room for exits. Prosecutor Chun was moving toward them, silver clutch tucked under her arm. The backup files, everything they'd gathered on Hayes, Chun, and Vanessa, were gone from the secure server, according to the alert that had just buzzed on her phone. The only remaining copy was on Terrell's personal laptop, which was supposed to be locked in his car trunk. You should check your text messages, Vanessa suggested. Might be enlightening. Maya reached for her phone, dread blooming in her chest. The message showed a photo taken minutes ago, Terrell sliding into his car, laptop under his arm, expression grim with purpose. He was running. People show their true character in crisis, Vanessa continued, watching Maya's face. Terrell's always been a survivor first, partner never. Chin reached them, nodding slightly to Vanessa. Mrs. Beaumont, enjoying the party? It's been revealing, Maya replied, recovering her composure. Though I was hoping to discuss those document signatures with you. That won't be necessary now. Chin's smile didn't reach her eyes. We've secured all the evidence we need. Maya's mind raced. Something wasn't right. Terrell wouldn't abandon their plan, abandon her without warning. Unless, if you'll excuse me, Maya extracted her arm from Vanessa's grip. Ladies' room. She moved through the crowd with deliberate calm, spine straight despite the weight of eyes following her. Once in the hallway, she quickened her pace, passing the restrooms and heading for the service corridor. The hotel's service corridor felt miles from the gala's glittering excess. Harsh fluorescent lighting exposing every line of tension on Vanessa's face as she cornered Maya against stainless steel carts. No witnesses, no backup, no escape route. Did you really think we wouldn't see through your little scheme? Vanessa's cultured voice had hardened to steel. The earpieces? The planned accident with the champagne? Amateur hour. I don't know what you're talking about. Stop playing innocent. Vanessa stepped closer. You were never innocent. Just convenient. That's why he chose you. Pretty enough to show off, smart enough to be useful, naive enough to manipulate. The words cut deeper than Maya wanted to admit. Is that what happened to you too? Something flickered in Vanessa's eyes. Terrell and I were equals before you. Partners. Lovers. He promised me everything, then discarded me when Hayes suggested you instead. Younger, more controllable, better pedigree for his political ambitions. The revelation landed like a slap. Maya had suspected other women during their marriage, but not before. Not as the reason he'd chosen her. You've been working with Hayes all along, Maya realized. This isn't about justice. It's about replacing Terrell. It's about taking what I earned. Vanessa's composure cracked, revealing the rage beneath. And now Terrell's running, leaving you to face federal charges alone. History repeats. Maya's phone vibrated with a text as Vanessa closed in. One word from Terrell, now. Without understanding the plan, she pressed the emergency alarm on the wall, and the sprinklers erupted overhead, sending the gala into chaos just as federal agents flooded through every entrance. When faced with apparent betrayal, do you immediately believe the worst or look for alternative explanations? What does your first instinct reveal about past wounds? In that moment of crisis, Maya chose to trust the man who'd once broken her heart, and the chaos that followed would determine whether that trust was wisdom or the final mistake in a marriage built on lies. Water streamed from crystal chandeliers onto evening gowns worth thousands as Maya realized Terrell hadn't abandoned their plan. He'd amplified it by bringing in federal agents loyal to neither Chun nor Vanessa. Screams and gasps filled the ballroom as the sprinkler system transformed Atlanta's elite into dripping, panicked masses. Silk ruined, makeup streaking, dignity washing away with each artificial raindrop. Through the chaos, Maya spotted what others missed. Agents in tactical gear, not local police, entering through 3 separate doors. Their jackets read FBI, not Atlanta PD. These weren't Chin's people. Maya pushed through the crowd, following the flicker of a silver clutch. Chin was moving quickly toward the service exit, phone pressed to her ear, other hand clutching her purse like a lifeline. The flash drive. Somewhere in the chaos, Terrell was executing his part of a plan he hadn't fully shared with Maya. Trust ran only so deep between them. Even now, federal agents. Everyone stay where you are. The command boomed through the ballroom, freezing the exodus. Maya ducked behind a column, watching as Chun veered suddenly toward the kitchen. Maya followed, keeping distance. The kitchen staff scattered at Chin's approach, recognizing authority even when it was fleeing. Through swinging doors, down another service corridor, Chun was heading for the loading dock. A hand gripped Maya's wrist, pulling her into a darkened alcove. She nearly screamed until Terrell's scent registered. Sandalwood cologne and adrenaline. She has the drive, Maya whispered, pressed against him in the tight space. His heart hammered against her palm, where she'd instinctively reached for balance. For one suspended moment, their bodies aligned as they had countless times before. Familiar territory made strange by circumstance. I know, his breath brushed her ear, but she can't decrypt it without the key, which is your grandmother's maiden name plus the day we met. The combination struck her. Something only Maya would know. Yet Terrell had used it to protect his most dangerous secrets. Before she could process the implications, agents jogged past their hiding place. Wait here. Terrell squeezed her hand. No. Maya gripped his sleeve. We do this together. Atlanta's elite scattered like startled birds. Designer shoes abandoned. Jewelry clutched. Reputation concerns trumping curiosity. Through the chaos, Maya moved with singular purpose toward the service elevator where Chin's assistant had disappeared with a laptop. They emerged onto the loading dock just as Chun was climbing into a black SUV. An agent's voice rang out. Prosecutor Chun, FBI, step away from the vehicle. Chun froze, calculating odds Maya could read on her face. Run and confirm guilt, or bluff through with authority intact. She chose wrong. As federal agents led Chun away in handcuffs, Terrell's hand found Maya's in the chaos. A brief, private connection amidst public destruction. It's not over, he warned. Chun was following orders from someone who won't be taken down so easily. When have you discovered someone's apparent betrayal was actually protection? How did that realization change your perception of them? In the rain-soaked aftermath of the gala, Maya watched years of certainty wash away. The man she'd built her defenses against had become her defender, while those promising justice had sought to use her as a pawn in a game much larger than revenge. The man behind the conspiracy waited in Terrell's own office. The mentor who'd launched his career, financed his first building, and expected ownership of everything Terrell built, including his family. You should have called ahead. Lawrence Hayes didn't rise from Terrell's chair as they entered. At 72, Hayes maintained the coiled energy of a man half his age. Silver hair, perfectly styled, custom suit without a wrinkle. Hands steady on the leather armrests of the chair he had no right to occupy. It's customary to make an appointment before visiting the CEO's office, Terrell replied, voice casual despite the tension Maya felt radiating from him. Hayes sat in Terrell's chair like he already owned it, Atlanta's nighttime skyline framing him in a corona of city lights. The man who'd shaped Atlanta's power structure for 3 decades didn't rise when they entered. People came to him, never the reverse. See, Hayes chuckled. Such a temporary title, especially with federal investigations underway. Interesting choice of words from a man whose prosecutor was arrested 2 hours ago. Terrell moved to the bar cart, pouring 3 fingers of whiskey. Drink. Hayes' eyes narrowed, flicking to Maya. I see you've reconciled with your ex-wife. How convenient. Not ex for long. Maya stepped forward, letting her hand rest on Terrell's arm. We're remarrying next month. The lie slid from her lips with practiced ease. Part of their strategy to unbalance Hayes, to present a united front where he expected division. Hayes' jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, the only sign their performance had landed. Young love rekindled. Hayes' smile didn't reach his eyes, though I wonder how Ms. Davenport feels about this development. Maya kept her expression neutral despite the name she didn't recognize. Another woman. Of course. You always did like to create conflict, Lawrence. Terrell handed him a glass. But we're not here to discuss my personal life. No. Hayes studied the amber liquid without drinking. Then perhaps we're here to discuss the flash drive currently in FBI possession. The one with your encryption that they're working very hard to break. They won't break it, Terrell replied. Not without the key, which you've provided to them by now, surely? The loyal citizen cooperating with justice. That depends. On what? On whether you're prepared to step back. Permanently. Terrell placed a folder on the desk. Signed transfer of all your interests in my company to a blind trust. Full resignation from the shadow board you maintained. Complete severance. Hayes laughed, the sound genuine this time. You're offering me a buyout? With what money? Your accounts are frozen. Not all of them. Maya stepped forward. My accounts aren't frozen, including the trust fund you helped Terrell hide from me during our divorce. The revelation hit its mark. Hayes' composure slipped, showing the calculation beneath. Touching, he recovered. But futile. Do you really think I built a 4-decade empire without insurance policies? That drive has evidence that implicates your husband in every decision, every bribe, every blackmail. If I fall, he falls harder. True, Terrell agreed. If the evidence on that drive ever becomes public, which it will the moment you move against me. Not quite. Terrell pulled out his phone, tapping the screen to reveal a live stream. Say hello to the internet, Lawrence. The color drained from Hayes' face as he realized the entire conversation was broadcasting to a private server. One connected to major news outlets with a dead man's switch. One wrong move, and everything would go live. When the recording of Hayes' confession went live across social media channels, Maya watched the realization cross his face. They never needed him to confess to authorities. They needed him to confess to the world. "You taught me well," Terrell said quietly. "Always control the narrative. Who truly holds power? Those who appear to have it, or those who understand its cost? What price would you pay to reclaim your autonomy?" As Hayes reached slowly for his phone, Maya held her breath, wondering if they'd underestimated the most dangerous man in Atlanta one final time. 6 months after the scandal that reordered Atlanta's power structure, Maya stood on the balcony of a different penthouse, smaller, but purchased with clean money and shared custody agreements that put their daughter first. Spring air carried the scent of new blossoms and fresh possibilities. Below, Atlanta continued its eternal construction, cranes swinging, jackhammers pulsing, the city reinventing itself the way cities always do after power shifts. 3 of Hayes's former buildings now bore new company names. His political allies had resigned or lost special elections. The system hadn't been cleansed, but it had been disrupted enough to create space for something different. Something better, possibly. Maya watched Zoe through the glass doors, setting the table for dinner with careful precision. At 11, she carried herself with the poise of someone who'd weathered a storm and found strength in the aftermath. The custody schedule remained the same. Weekdays with Maya, weekends with Terrell, but the hostility that once characterized handoffs had dissolved into something like respect. The glass door slid open behind her. "She insists we use the blue plates," Terrell said, joining her at the railing. "Apparently they complement the lasagna. She's particular about aesthetics." Maya smiled. Like her father, and stubborn about getting her way. Like her mother, the easy banter still surprised her. How they'd found a way back to conversation without the undercurrents of resentment that had poisoned their final years together. Not friends, exactly, but not enemies either. Zoe's laughter drifted through open French doors as she helped her father arrange dinner plates. Not the imported china of his former life, but simple ceramics chosen together during weekend shopping. The skyline viewed from this height showed buildings he'd built, now operated under new management and scrutiny. Terrell's company had survived, though diminished. 3 board members indicted, 2 properties seized, his reputation permanently altered. He'd emerged not unscathed, but alive, legally and literally, after Hayes's failed attempt to silence them both. Maya had used her settlement to launch a consulting firm specializing in corporate ethics oversight, poetic justice that didn't escape either of them. The foundation board approved the scholarship program, Terrell said, breaking the comfortable silence. Full ride for 5 students from Zoe's school. Kids who couldn't afford college otherwise. That's wonderful. Maya meant it. The Beaumont Family Foundation, restructured with independent oversight, was perhaps the one purely good thing to emerge from their complicated history. "They want you back on the board," he added, watching her carefully. "Your expertise in ethical compliance is in high demand these days." The invitation hung between them. Not just to rejoin the foundation, but to continue rebuilding something from the wreckage of what they'd once been to each other. As Zoe called them to dinner, Maya caught Terrell watching her with an expression that wasn't ownership or desire, but something she'd never seen during their marriage: genuine respect. "We're not who we were," he said quietly. She nodded, allowing her hand to briefly touch his. Maybe that's the point. What rises from the ashes of destroyed illusions? Is it possible to build something more authentic after complete collapse? As they joined their daughter at the table, 3 people connected by blood, choice, and hard-won wisdom, Maya realized some questions don't need immediate answers. Sometimes it's enough to ask them together.